evening and welcome to the Newshour Agenda. I'm Madhavdas GK. Viewers, there's a cloud of uncertainty over when the war in Ukraine will end. And this uncertainty has only increased after the heated exchange between President Zelinsky and US President Trump, even as the war continues for more than 3 years now. Efforts have since been made from the European powers to repair the split and pave way for peace. Trump has recently claimed that Zelensky wrote to him to express his desire to come to the negotiating table. Zelensky, who's been meeting leaders of different countries, has now reportedly arrived in Saudi Arabia for talks with the United States on achieving peace in Ukraine. But in the midst of all this, Zelensky is also battling criticism from within Ukraine. After the Oval Office spat, his political rivals are gunning for him, with one of the Ukrainian MPs, Oleksandr Dubinsky, calling for his impeachment, citing diplomatic failure with Donald Trump. He's also accused Zelensky of crushing dissent. But is there truth in this claim? Well, in 2022, there were at least 2 instances when Zelensky was accused by political analysts and his rivals of trying to silence opponents. On the 19th of March 2022, 11 Ukrainian political parties were suspended. And that's not the only reason, because they were apparently citing the links with Russia as the reason for the suspension. On the 20th of March 2022, Zelensky combined all national TV channels into one platform. He cited the importance of unified information policy under martial law as the reason for this. Cut to 2025, Zelensky is facing the charge of silencing his critics once again. And for the first time on Indian TV, you will see Member of Parliament from Ukraine, Oleksandr Dubinsky, speak while being lodged in an Ukrainian prison. Viewers, this is a Newshour Agenda super exclusive.
You were watching the Newshour at 10. Agenda, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Oleksandr Dubinsky joins us now. Oleksandr, thank you so much for speaking to Times Now. Following the Trump-Zelensky meeting in the White House last week and the fallout thereafter, you've given a call to impeach the Ukrainian president. How do you read the fallout and what it means for Ukraine?
Добрый день. Спасибо за возможность дать ответы на вопросы.
Zelensky has suffered a fiasco. He went seeking support, but instead demonstrated his helplessness. The conversation in the Oval Office showed that he has no strategy beyond endless war. This means his days in power are numbered. It is worth noting that the peace initiatives proposed by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi were also ignored by Zelensky. While India offered paths to de-escalation on all international platforms, Zelensky chose the path of total destruction of the country to preserve his power.
And reacting to what transpired in the meeting, you had said that Zelensky thought that he could rule Ukraine rather through force. Now he's lost. But isn't the Ukrainian offensive in response to what started as a Russian transgression?
War is a convenient tool for holding onto power. Zelensky deliberately pushed for escalation, rejecting negotiations in 2021 to 2022 and pursuing political opponents. When Prime Minister Modi spoke of the need for a diplomatic solution, Zelensky continued to insist on war. Even during the G20, when India called for peace and stability, Ukraine used the platform solely to demand military support.
You've also been imprisoned for months, Mr. Dubinsky. You've remained a suspect in a number of criminal cases related to corruption and treason. But you've said that the cases came as you exposed Joe Biden's corruption in Ukraine. Can you tell us something about this?
I am
currently being held in pre-trial detention on charges of high treason. In 2019, I exposed the corruption of the Bidens, publishing evidence of a money laundering scheme involving Ukrainian government bonds, with the participation of Burisma, Mykola Zlochevsky, and Hunter Biden. These materials were confirmed by the Prosecutor General's Office of Ukraine. It has already been proven in the US Congress that Joe Biden, through Burisma, bought political influence in Ukraine. Moreover, Hunter Biden himself admitted his guilt in this scheme. Despite these facts, I am still in prison. The Ukrainian authorities accused me of high treason, claiming that my 2019 press conference, where I exposed the Burisma corruption, was allegedly coordinated by Russian intelligence. This accusation was fabricated through torture of a witness who was forced to testify that my actions allegedly served the interests of Russia and Trump. I also publicly criticized Soros NGO network and its influence operations in Ukraine. I did in Ukraine exactly what Elon Musk is now doing in the United States, exposing how Soros-funded structures manipulate political processes and undermine national sovereignty through funded media and NGO. For this, I became a target. In Ukraine, criticizing Soros means prison, and exposing Biden's corruption means fabricated criminal charges. In addition to this, Zelinsky fabricated 3 more criminal cases against me, aimed at silencing me. In one of these cases, the authorities even tried to ban me from using social media, which clearly indicates political persecution for speaking the truth. When I was placed in pre-trial detention, the authorities attempted to physically eliminate me in December 2023. I was tortured for 2 consecutive nights, and they broke 2 of my ribs. This is the price for telling the truth in Ukraine.
But Mr. Dubinsky, weren't you also recently found guilty of exerting pressure over the investigation of the corruption case against you? The list of charges also includes allegedly meddling in the 2020 US presidential elections. Are you saying that are these all trumped up?
This is a political farce. There is not a single piece of evidence in my case, no phone records, no financial documents, no credible witnesses. The only so-called witness against me is a person who was tortured in a secret SBU prison. The US sanctions against me were imposed based on a fake report from an NGO funded by USAID and George Soros. Zelinsky is doing the same on the international stage. He accuses anyone who does not support his war of working for Russia. Even neutral countries like India, which call for peaceful resolution, are subjected to criticism.
So when you talk about the alleged influence of George Soros and his networks in Ukraine, something that's also been in discussion with respect to India, what would you say about these networks? How do they work? What are their goals? Because many of them have also said that you have been dubbed as a Russian agent.
Soros-funded structures are a tool of political control. They impose the correct agenda, undermine sovereignty, and interfere in elections. In Ukraine, such structures do not just shape the government, they do everything to ensure continued war.
And have you also been in touch with the American administration in any way? Have you discussed Ukraine with them?
I do not communicate with the White House administration. I am trying to follow about everything that is happening there.
And how do you see a halt in US aid to Ukraine and the world leaders' reaction to what happened in the Oval Office, which have largely favored Zelensky?
The US will not finance an endless war. Zelensky tried to manipulate by playing on pity and fears, but Trump and Congress understand that continuing the war is a road to nowhere.
All right, Oleksandr Dubinsky, thank you so much for joining us, a member of parliament who's in fact in detention and speaking to us from that detention there.